Welcome to the public meeting for user fees and charges for 2026 on Wednesday, May 20th, 2026 at 4:50 p.m. in council chambers at 3 Kirkland Street West and via electronic participation. I do want to acknowledge tonight we do have many members of the public with us this evening, and I just want to give a note of caution that in this room we do hold decorum. So what that means is we expect all of our members to behave in such a way as you would want members that attend your place of business to behave as well. So just to make sure that our business can continue in the manner that it's supposed to. So thank you for that. Item number 1, call to order and a moment of silence. It is 4:51 p.m. Thank you. Item number 2, land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that the town of Kirkland Lake is located on traditional and unceded territory of Indigenous people. We recognize the presence of these Indigenous peoples in our community since time immemorial and honor their stewardship and care of these lands. We hereby affirm our continued commitment to and responsibility to reconciliation. Item number 3, declaration of pecuniary interest. None noted. Item number 4, summary of reports. This will be presented by Lloyd Crawford, treasurer. Thank you, sir.
Mayor, to all council and attendance. So last council meeting, you'll see that we submitted a report which tried to summarize some of the factors, decisions, and underlying pressures and rationale that we used to come up with these rates. I would just like to comment on a couple of things that will be repetitive for council, perhaps not for the public. So when we go through the budget process, we do a survey. And the survey often asks what type of approach ratepayers would like us to take to try and keep those rates down, to address the fiscal challenges that we have here in our community. So in that particular, the last budget survey, I note that 32% of the people talked about introducing new fees and 14.4, the increase in user fees. That was a common sentiment in almost every response. We don't, as I said in the budget process, it's not it doesn't force us, the budget surveys, to act in a certain way, but it informs some of the decision making we make. The other part of this discussion is really about the idea that, you know, we charge fees for services that aren't necessarily being used by all ratepayers. We understand that they're all subsidized, every activity that we use in this town, except perhaps the cemetery, which comes close to breaking even. Every other service we provide in this town is done on a loss basis. And these fees are to help us offset some of those losses. And we try to direct them to the people that are using the services that these fees are attracting. So, you know, overall, it's kind of our thinking behind the fees. Everybody understands the pressures of our world around us, and we're feeling them as well. Materials, supplies, everything that we spend money on in the corporation has gone up as fast or faster than the trip to the grocery store. And as hard as we try to control those costs, unfortunately, to provide services, we have to pay them. And these fees are kind of a reflection of some of that. Yeah, I think that's kind of basically a summary of what, you know, the report itself is much more detailed, obviously. And I'm looking forward to hearing from the public this evening.
Thank you, sir. Item number 5, confirmation notice. Madam Deputy Clerk, how was notice given?
Notice of the public meeting was given in accordance with the Town of Kirkland Lake's notice bylaw 2557 by publishing said notice on the town's website 14 days in advance as of May 7th, 2026. And supplemental notice was published in the town's social media and daily local radio broadcast.
Thank you. Item number 6, correspondence received. Madam Deputy Clerk, did you receive any correspondence prior to the beginning of this meeting?
Madam Mayor, I confirm that no correspondence was received.
Thank you. Item number 7, comments and questions from members of the public. I will now open the floor to members of the public that wish to speak specifically on user fees in the town of Kirkland Lake. You may come up to the podium to speak. Please identify yourself and your address before beginning your comments. Members of the public, is there anybody that wishes to comment on our user fees for 2026? No members noticed. Thank you. Madam Deputy Clerk, can you please read the proposed direction?
That council received the comments from members of the public, if any, and finding that the proposed bylaw and respective schedules be brought forward for 3 readings at the June 2nd, 2026 regular council meeting.
Thank you. This shall be the direction moving out of this meeting. Item number 9, adjournment. I call this public meeting adjourned. Welcome to the regular council meeting of Wednesday, May 20th, 2026 at 4:56 p.m. in council chambers at 3 Kirkland Street West and via electronic participation. Call to order is at 4:56. We will not be proceeding with a land acknowledgement as we did so during the public meeting. Item number 3, approval of the agenda. This does require a procedural vote due to a lifting of procedures. Moved by Councillor Casey Owens, seconded by Councillor Ladd Shabba.
Be it resolved that the agenda for the regular meeting of council held on Wednesday, May 20th, 2026 be approved as circulated. And finally, that section 6.11 of council's procedure bylaw 2562 be suspended to allow a presentation beyond 10 minutes as pre-requested.
Thank you. All in favor? Opposed? None noted. Item carried unanimous. Item number 4, declaration of pecuniary interest. None noted from the table. Item number 5, civic petitions. There are none this evening. Item number 6, delegation and presentations, moved by Councillor Janice Ranger and seconded by Councillor Dolly Dykins.
Be it resolved that the delegation entitled Age-Friendly Communities Movement and Supports in Ontario be received for information purposes.
Thank you. And tonight we will be welcoming Ms. Sarah Webster, Manager, Center for Studies in Aging and Health at Queen's University. Welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
You may proceed.
Thank you. Okay. So good afternoon. My name is Sarah Webster. I'm manager with the Center for Studies in Aging and Health based at Queen's University. And I appreciate having the time to talk to you today. I'm going to talk today about what an age-friendly community is and why it matters, what the benefits are to individuals and to communities. I'll provide an overview about how communities are planning and implementing this work in Ontario. And then I'll conclude with talking about our Ontario Age-Friendly Communities Outreach Program and the supports we provide to communities across the province. So when we talk about an age-friendly community, we're talking about a community that helps residents thrive at every stage of life. So an age-friendly community looks at the social and physical environments, as well as the programs, policies, and services that shape everyday life for residents. I've highlighted here 4 kind of key components of an age-friendly community, though we'll dig more deeper into the domains. But firstly, it's inclusive. This means recognizing and respecting the diverse needs, experiences, and values of residents, including older adults, caregivers, people with disabilities, Indigenous residents, and people with different cultural and economic backgrounds. The second is accessible. Communities work best when everyone can participate fully. So whether that means being able to access buildings, transportation, programming, or information, all of it contributes to what we mean when we talk about accessibility. Age-friendly communities are safe. They promote the health, safety, and independence of their citizens. And finally, they're intergenerational. The work is not only about older adults, but they foster stronger relationships and connections between generations, creating benefits for the whole community. So in 2005, the age-friendly movement began internationally through the World Health Organization. And at that time, communities around the world were recognizing the growing impact of population aging, not only an impact that was affecting healthcare systems, but also community infrastructure, housing, transportation, recreation, and social programming. And so the WHO, World Health Organization, launched the Global Age-Friendly Cities Project to help communities prepare in a positive way and in a proactive way for that demographic shift. And the goal at the time, and the goal still is, to encourage policies, services, and structures to support people to age actively and to remain connected within their own communities for as long as possible. Now, when the WHO led this global consultation, what really surfaced was that there were 8 domains that really contributed to how people lived well in their communities. And this is what we'll dive into today. Excuse me. So one of the clearest examples of how communities shape health and well-being is through the design of neighborhoods and public spaces. So when neighborhoods are safe, accessible, and welcoming, people are more likely to get outside, to stay active, to connect with each other. And those things are critically important for both the physical and mental health as people age. Often relatively small design changes can actually make a significant difference. For example, stopgap ramps, which are portable ramps, can improve accessibility for mobility devices. So a historic downtown building that maybe had a one step to get into it, with a portable ramp suddenly becomes accessible for everybody. Communities are installing benches to create opportunities for rest and make walking more realistic for older adults, but for everybody. It's extending crosswalk signal times to improve safety and confidence of pedestrians. And it's redesigning parks to include accessible pathways, signage, seating, and washrooms. And that can increase participation and social connection in our public spaces. So these might actually feel like kind of small infrastructure decisions, but collectively they influence whether people feel confident and able to move through their communities safely and independently. The second domain is transportation, and it's often one of the most overlooked determinants of healthy aging and independence. The condition and design of transportation systems directly affect personal mobility, and that mobility shapes whether people can access healthcare, groceries, recreation, social opportunities. For many people, driving represents independence, but as driving becomes more difficult, or when someone no longer drives, the availability of alternative transportation options becomes critical. And without those options, people can quickly become isolated from services and social connection. So an age-friendly approach actually recognizes that mobility is not about just roads and vehicles. It's also ensuring people can continue to contribute and connect in their community. So again, this includes both infrastructure and education. It's things like cycling safety workshops to encourage and support active transportation, but it's also training programs that help older adults navigate public transit systems confidently, and driving safety clinics that support driver safety, safer driving for as long as possible. The broader goal is not simply to keep people moving, it's to maintain independence, participation, and quality of life as needs change over time. We often talk about and we hear that people want to age in place, age in community, and housing is one of the foundational elements of that. For people to remain safe, independent, and connected to their communities, they need access to housing options that are appropriate, affordable, and adaptable to changing needs over time. And there's no single housing solution that is going to do all of that. So age-friendly communities actually recognize the need for a range of housing options. The goal here is flexibility, where housing should be able to support people as circumstances, mobility, and health needs change, rather than forcing people to leave communities to find alternative options elsewhere. Some communities are using some creative strategies to support this, whether it's home sharing programs to reduce isolation and improve affordability for older adults, creating housing directories to help people navigate what housing options are available. And then we have other communities doing home safety or home modification programs to help people remain safely in their homes longer. So those are kind of our physical environment domains. And now we move into more of the social environment, how we connect to each other. At its core, social participation is whether people feel connected to each other and able to meaningfully engage in community life. This matters because social isolation, as we know, is increasingly recognized as a significant public health issue. It's linked not only to mental health challenges, but also physical health decline and reduced mobility. So age-friendly communities create opportunities for people to participate and participate in things that they want to participate in. Some examples are physical activity programs, there's arts-based programs, and there's others that combine a tea and talk, which would combine like an educational component with social opportunity as well. An age-friendly community is also shaped by the attitudes and how people are valued within community life. So community attitudes matter because they influence whether older adults feel respected, included, and recognized as contributors to society. Excuse me, some examples would be Senior of the Year awards that recognize contributions and leadership in the community, intergenerational programming, building relationships across age groups, and age-friendly business initiatives that encourage businesses to think about accessibility, customer service, and inclusion. And what's great is these kind of strategies shift the narrative around aging from one focused primarily on decline or dependency to one that recognizes experience, contribution, and community value. The sixth domain is around civic participation and employment. And for some, that might mean volunteering or participating in local organizations. For others, it's continuing to work, pursuing new employment opportunities, or contributing to their skills and experiences in different ways, mentorship programs, etc. So some examples would be supports to make voting more accessible. So we've seen some communities have programs where there's drivers that help people get to the voting booths. We've got volunteer fairs to connect people to meaningful local opportunities, and age-friendly employment programs to recognize that value that older adults bring to the workforce. At its heart of how a community connects to each other is really how they communicate with each other. People need to know what services, supports, and programs are available, because even when there's good programs that exist in a community, they can't support people if individuals don't know about them or can't access the information easily. So some examples would include community newsletters, both online and in print, resource guides. I know you know about that one, that brings services together into one place that people can navigate what's available. And a lot of communities do fairs or expos to connect people directly to organizations and supports in the community. One thing to highlight here is that while digital communication creates opportunities for us to push information out really broadly, it can also unintentionally exclude people who have limited digital access or confidence. So an age-friendly approach also asks, are we communicating in ways that allow everyone to stay informed, connected, and engaged? And usually that means having multiple communication channels. The last domain is around community support and health services. Age-friendly communities focus not only whether services exist, but also consider if people are aware of them, if they can access them, and if they're comfortable using them. And that includes both physical and mental health supports, but also looking upstream at prevention, well-being, and independence-focused programs. So examples would include fall prevention classes to reduce injury risk, cooking and nutrition programs, and community paramedicine initiatives that bring care and support closer to where people live. What's important is that shift towards proactive and community-based approaches support health and well-being earlier before crisis occurs. So age domains feels pretty big. It crosses a lot of sectors, and it often feels like that's really nice, but why does it matter, and what are the benefits going to be? So we see benefits at an individual level. Age-friendly communities create really tangible benefits for individuals and for families. One of the biggest one is supporting healthy behaviors. When communities are designed to encourage participation and mobility and recreation, residents are more likely to remain active and connected. Age-friendly approaches support aging in place. They mean people are better able to remain in their homes and communities safely and independently as they age. Another benefit is increased opportunities for social interaction and connection. And of course, that age-friendly work can also improve awareness and coordination of community and health services. Often, communities already have valuable programs, but as I say, people don't always know about them or there's barriers in accessing them, and this can help address those. In addition to the individual benefits, age-friendly communities also create important economic benefits. So communities that are welcoming, accessible, and inclusive often are better positioned to attract visitors, residents, and investments. Accessible public spaces, walkable downtowns, and inclusive community amenities and services can help support tourism and local economic activity. So age-friendly communities then become a place that people want to come to. They can also strengthen the workforce. Many older adults continue working beyond traditional retirement age, whether full-time, part-time, through mentorship or volunteering, and supporting that participation helps communities retain really valuable skills, experience, and leadership. Another important consideration is that community attraction and retention. So older adults are an important and growing demographic, and many communities are actively competing to attract and retain retirees and older residents who contribute significantly to the local economy. Older adults are often considered have a considerable economic influence as consumers supporting local businesses, services, housing, recreation, and healthcare sectors. So communities want to try to keep that demographic in community. And research shows that older adults are also more likely to contribute through charitable donations and through volunteerism, helping strengthen the local infrastructure and community. Many older adults, part of that volunteering comes in informal ways through caregiving. Many provide critical unpaid caregiving support to younger generations, childcare for grandchildren, or support for other family members. And that contribution then helps families remain in the workforce and strengthens overall community well-being. Additional benefits include increased volunteerism and civic participation through volunteering, mentorship, local boards, and even the neighbor-to-neighbor support that we see develop between older adults. Age-friendly initiatives also help foster stronger intergenerational connections and support aging in place, which can delay or reduce health system expenditures by promoting independence and reducing the need for more intensive care services. At its heart, age-friendly planning also encourages communities to think about how connected their neighborhoods are, and ultimately how accessible their communities are. Features that support older adults, like better signage, safer sidewalks, accessible buildings, inclusive programming, also benefit families with young children, people with disabilities, new visitors to the community. So when we design communities thinking about the needs of older adults, we're designing them better for everybody. So if we know what it looks like, what is happening here in Ontario, we have more than 70 communities in Ontario engaged in this work. And it really began in 2013. The province put out an age-friendly planning guide to tell communities how to address these 8 domains. And it was a great resource. It got sent out to municipalities, and to be honest, it kind of sat on shelves because there wasn't kind of the support to go with it. And so in 2015, the ministry funded 56 communities through age-friendly planning grants, really asking them to take that guide and let's see what happens when we run with it. And at the same time, they funded our provincial program to help support communities in that process. Since then, we've seen 2 instances of recognition awards, both in 2018 and 2026, just this last January, and then a series of grants as well to help communities in their age-friendly strategies. And in 2021, our team was able to revise that planning guide, to update it, to include more on evaluation and sustainability, and to include a toolkit and diverse populations addendum to complement it as well. So there's the guide there. When I talk about age-friendly communities in Ontario, and I use that number of 70 plus, I'm always careful to make it clear that what we're talking about is communities who are currently and actively engaged in this planning cycle. So we have a lot of communities across the province who call us and say, I have a fall prevention program for seniors or an intergen program for seniors. We are age friendly. We care about our seniors, and absolutely, and we love to hear that. But when we talk about age friendly communities, we're talking about people not only engaged in this process, but also recognizing that there is no check mark of I'm done. We created an age friendly community. And that's why it's careful whenever we hear these recognition awards, that it's a recognition, not that it's complete, but a recognition of an ongoing commitment that that community has made to the work. So our provincial planning framework is made up of 4 steps and then kind of this overarching evaluation and sustainability. So mostly communities start with this first step of defining local principles. And that's where they kind of recognize that there's no one size fits all model. We can't say, here's exactly how to do it, the playbook, play by play, and that's going to work in Kirkland Lake and it's also going to work in London, Ontario. That's just unrealistic. So this is what I love about this model is it really can adapt to whatever the needs are, and it's really driven by the needs of the community. So the community comes together, develops some kind of group that looks different in every community about what that structure is, defines some roles and responsibilities and how that group will be supported, whether it's through infrastructure or possibly through funding, not always. And then they start to define a shared vision. What's important is that the process is built on what is working well in the community, and what the values and needs are of the community. So that shared vision really creates an umbrella to fit this under. The second step is assessing needs. As I said, there's 8 domains. That's a lot to tackle. And we know communities are already doing really great work. So it's important for communities to go out to those that live in the community and say, what is working? What's the community doing really well? And what can be improved upon across these 8 areas? And that usually is done through a large survey and then sometimes interviews or focus groups with key kind of community partners as well. But it's really exciting because I think what comes out of this is I think sometimes communities go in with this, a little bit nervous that they're going to find out all the things there's a lot that needs fixing. And instead what they find is there's a lot of really great things happening. And here's some areas where we can do a little bit more work. What it also does is help take all those great things that are already working and put them together under a framework, so that they're now not individual kind of reactions or programs. They're actually contributing to this broader vision within the community. And so that's where we move to the next step of developing an action plan. So communities look at all that data that comes in and then identify what are those short and long-term strategies to address those gaps. And usually it's organized around those 8 domains. What's important to note here is that when we're developing an action plan, it very rarely is a 1 year, here's what we're going to do in the next 6 to 12 months. That cycle, generally we see it takes about 3 to 5 years. And it's a cycle because, again, it's not a check mark and done. This is how long it takes to do the short-term strategies, to actually get a couple of the big longer-term strategies tackled, and then to go back to the community and say, okay, have the needs changed? Have we hit the mark and done something well in an area that maybe was a gap? And is there something new that we need to address? That additional cycle also allows communities to say, are there people that we didn't hear from in the first time that we did this? So we have multiple communities now on their second or third cycle as they go through, and it only continues to be strengthened with each go round. And then the fourth kind of process is this implementation process. The thing I want to highlight too is that I think whoever's leading an age-friendly strategy in a community, it can sometimes feel, feel daunting to do that action plan and think we got to do all this ourselves. And the beauty of this work is that it doesn't have to be, nor should it be done only by, say, a municipality or only by a community group if it's a community a community group or organization that's leading it. Often it requires, some of those physical environment pieces are more likely to be tackled by a municipality leading that, but some of the other actions would be better suited to be programming by organizations, partners in the community. So that implementation then gets divided between all these people who have a hand in it. And it's an opportunity to really build momentum and demonstrate progress, and then increase engagement within the community. And then the last kind of piece that I'll mention here, but really is embedded throughout the process, is evaluation and sustainability. So process evaluation to monitor the implementation activities and determine whether the strategies are being carried out as intended. And then outcome evaluation focused on measuring results and the impact. Quality improvement pieces to get that feedback loop of are we doing it right? Do we need to refine some programming? Do we need to refine some of our processes continuously? And then sustainability strategies. So instead of thinking about this in 5 years, thinking about it now, how do we, and the guide really digs into that, what are the factors that help with sustainability? I did want to note too that when we talk about these 70 plus across Ontario, there is quite a variety of governance structures for age-friendly community initiatives. So some are entirely volunteer-led and driven by community champions, while others are coordinated and supported directly by municipal governments. Sometimes it's a single staff member in government, sometimes it's committee of council or an advisory committee, and oftentimes there's some kind of collaborative model that includes partners from both community and municipal sectors. And we've seen a lot of strength in that. And that governance structure, whatever works for a community, is really often reflects the size of the community, the available resources, and the local capacity that's there. The other piece is funding, and it often is funding. Some communities do steps of this without funding, so they might be able to in-house be able to do the survey, and then when they get to the action plan, they're looking for funding to support the strategies. And then sometimes they can't get it off the ground unless they get a little bit of a funding for some staff support or that kind of thing. But what we've seen is a real variety in where people go for that funding. Sometimes there is some municipal budget that can be allocated. Sometimes communities look to provincial and federal grants. And we've also seen communities look to donation, to fundraising, and of course also to partnerships and in-kind support from other people. Partnerships with academics at institutions can also help, or having students do practicums can help as well with offsetting some of the costs. So I did want to acknowledge that when we're talking about those 70 plus communities in Ontario, that congratulations to you, because Kirkland Lake was part of that number that was recognized in January. The age-friendly work in the community has historically been led by municipal staff, which was a reflection of the town's commitment to support this population and planning for inclusive communities. In 2017, Kirkland Lake completed an age-friendly community plan, which was formally adopted by town council. And it was a step to identifying local priorities, engaging community members, and creating that roadmap for quality of life for older adults. And then building on that, staff secured support through a seniors community grant in 2018 to develop a community guide for older adults. I mentioned that as one of the examples earlier. A practical resource to help residents access essential services, programs, and supports within Kirkland Lake. And I think that those accomplishments show that meaningful work has already taken place. So there's an opportunity to consider, is this a time that we could re-engage with the cycle and look at it, have the needs of the community changed at this time? Can we build on this foundation that's already been set? So this is where our program comes in. So as I said, we are based at Queen's University. Our program was established in 2015 and funded by the Ministry for Seniors and Accessibility. We're a provincial knowledge translation and exchange initiative, which just means we don't do the on-the-ground support in communities. We don't run programs, but our role is to keep people connected to information, connected to each other, and help build capacity and awareness in communities for this work. So I'm just going to talk to you a little bit before wrapping up about the 9 kind of core facilitation strategies that we offer. And we have some, and these are open to anyone, whether you're sitting in an age-friendly community, whether you're leading it or just supporting it, or you are just a resident who wants to learn more. We have some people reach out and engage, like use all of our services and supports, and some that kind of pick and choose depending on what is needed. And there's no cost. It's just, this is our programming that we have. So the first is our knowledge broker. And I should have put a picture up, but our knowledge broker is Cheryl. She's fantastic. What a knowledge broker is they're the point of contact, and they don't need to have the answer, but they know where to go to get the answer. So she gets questions all along a giant spectrum, everything from what is an age-friendly community to, can you give me an example of a terms of reference that other groups have used for their committee, to how does recognition work, or have you heard about this funding, or can you connect me to a community of similar size that has a age-friendly business program that we might be able to talk to. And so her response is often connecting to other people, sending resources or research that has been found, or providing advice and consultation. She does a lot of presentations as well on lots of different topics. She's the go-to if communities want their online profile updated. And we're trying to tell communities this more because it's not as well known, but if communities are applying for a grant, we are happy to write a letter of support as well, to help with that process. The second is collaborative networks. So we have 4 age-friendly networks across the province in Northern, Eastern, Central, and Southwestern Ontario. And these are for the leads of the initiatives in those areas, of the age-friendly initiatives, to come together in virtual bi-monthly meetings. Sometimes there's a bit of education, like an invited speaker to do a short 10 minutes presentation. There's always a round table where people share what they're working on, what's a challenge in their community, how has someone else tackled this or that, successes they've had. We've seen really kind of cool times where a program gets talked about and then all of a sudden it's popping up in other communities, adapted a little bit, and people are testing it elsewhere. And I will say, when I first started kind of into this age-friendly work more than 10 years ago now, where I saw other programs happen in communities and people kind of put their heads down, right? And they just were focusing on their community. The age-friendly community at large in Ontario is so welcoming and supportive. So those networks are just, you go on and they're having a good time and really looking to support each other. So, and we have new people, staff changes, we've got a new person coming on, and every time people are saying, I can help, like, call me, I'm happy to show you the ropes, give you some information. So it's a really welcoming community, and those networks are a big part of that. We also do host a community of interest on volunteerism and ageism. We really heard out of the pandemic that communities were struggling with retaining older adult volunteers and recruiting older adult volunteers. And so we produced some resources, did some research on that. And then also we've got this group that meets 3 times a year, I think, to connect more deeply on that topic. We have a monthly e-newsletter. For me, this is if you just want to stay in the know about what is happening out there, this is a great way comes into your inbox. And if you've got time, you have a peek at it. It has news stories from Ontario, Canada, and international as well. Events that come up, funding announcements, we push through that channel, new resources and research, not just from us, but from others. And there's usually a topic of the month, and we provide some highlights in there on that. We have a webinar series, which allows people to connect in virtually. But we also have people that registered just so that they can get the information later, which is great. We post it on our website afterwards as open access, so you can go and check out anything you've missed as well. And that really comes to our hub, which is agefriendlyontario.ca. There's lots of information there about the age-friendly planning process, where to think about funding, all of that, but also resources and how to get connected. And part of the website includes interactive maps. So these maps are a visual of all the communities in Ontario, as I say, engaged in this planning process. The colors there are representative of population size. So you can see we've got large urban centers, but also medium size and small urban rural communities as well. And if you click on any of those, it'll take you to more information about the community. But also down the left-hand side, there's additional layers for the map for each of the 8 domains. So if your community is getting to that action plan part and you're really wanting to get examples of what are other people doing for housing, if you click on that, it'll show you all the communities who have current initiatives around housing, and you can kind of click through and get some more information. So it's a nice kind of visual way to see all this great work happening. As I said, there's community, it links back to community profiles on the website. Our profiles, we try to keep them as these are communities that are actively engaged in that process. And the profiles are a way for us to host a web page for you to showcase the great work happening. So it usually describes what the community is kind of doing in the area, current and completed projects. We link to any public documents that you have. And then there's also on the left, it's cut off there, but key contact. So people can always come to Cheryl as the knowledge broker to say, can you put me in touch with someone in this community or that? But you can also go on and say, you know, who are my neighboring communities that are doing this? I'd love to chat with them a little bit more. Or I'd like to look for a community of similar size, and you can find it and reach out to leads really directly. Part of our role, because we do, our director at the center is a geriatrician as well as an academic. So we always kind of have an academic lens to some of our work. So we've been doing a provincial survey for years now. This goes out to the leads every January, asking them to report on the last year. And we ask things like what's your governance structure? How are you funded? What are the benefits you're seeing? Enablers, challenges. We kind of add a couple questions, special topic questions. So during COVID, we were asking about the impact of the pandemic. We've asked about, you know, how are you engaging certain populations so that we can better understand that. But what's great is that information does a whole bunch of things. So it comes back to us so that we can inform our programming and make sure we're meeting the needs of the communities. We then present it back to communities so they can see the bigger picture of the movement in Ontario and aggregate data of what's happening. And then we also give you back, here's what you said last year on your responses. So you can start to see over time your own kind of progress in a bigger picture. And we also report those findings back to our ministry partners to help inform their policy funding decisions as well at a provincial level. And then finally, we produce resources. The one on the left, these are just 3 of them I wanted to highlight, but the one on the left is a very general one about what is an age-friendly community. The backside has the benefits. But communities asked for that so that when they had information fairs or when they were going to do presentations in their community, it was a leave behind that they could use to get local buy-in. So it's just a generic kind of 101 about age-friendly communities. We also have strategies for retention of older volunteers, and there's a few volunteerism specific ones. The one on the far right is aging programs in the province. So these are research centers. So if you're looking to tap into some kind of extra support or stay in the know, they've got lots of mailing lists. That's there. And then the other one, which didn't fit on here, but I do want to mention, is we do have a e-learning course on age-friendly communities. And it follows the steps in the guide. So we see people that have signed up, and you can do it at your own pace. So people have signed up and done it all at once. There's a workbook to it. And then some people have signed up and had their actual committees, their planning committees, sign up and said, okay, before our first meeting, do the module on the first step. And then they're actually using the workbook, and it's asking a question like, who else should be sitting at this table? And they're coming to the meeting. All of them are primed, same language, same kind of framework. They understand the framework, and then they're coming in able to jumpstart the meeting. And then before the one on doing the survey, they're saying, okay, go back to the module and do the next one on the needs assessment. So it's helping them kind of really anchor and make best use of their time as a committee as well. And that's it. I love this topic, so I get really chatty about it. I'm happy to answer any questions, but I've also put my email there, and Cheryl's our knowledge broker, and we are more than happy to have a chat at any time if you have any follow-up questions at a later date.
Thank you so much for joining us this evening, and thank you for your presentation. Does any member of council have any questions of clarification for this presenter? Councillor Dykens, question for clarification?
I just want to thank Sarah. I met Sarah Roma when I accepted the recognition award on behalf of the town. And she so graciously agreed to present to us tonight. So thanks, Sarah. Great seeing you again.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you. We definitely have members at this table that are looking forward to renewing our evaluation and sustainability of our aging friendly in Kirkland Lake plan. So thank you very much for your time this evening, and hopefully we'll have you back at a future date. Thank you very much.
Anytime.
Thank you. Madam Deputy, you read the motion again?
Yeah, be it resolved that the delegation entitled Age Friendly Communities Movement and Supports in Ontario be received for information purposes.
Thank you very much. All in favor? Opposed? None noted. Item carried unanimous. Item 6.2 is we will welcome Mr. Mark Roy to the podium. He is the president of Kirkland Lake Soccer Association. Welcome, sir. Thank you very much for joining us this evening.
Hi. Evening, Mayor and members of council. My name is Mark Roy, third president of the Kirkland Lake Soccer Association. I'm here tonight on behalf of our board of directors, our players, families, volunteers, and the soccer community, both the past and present. So back in December 2025, after being contacted about the possible sale of Queenie property, KLSA wrote a letter on December 15th explaining how the sale of this field would seriously impact our operations. We explained it's one of the only properly sized fields for certain divisions and has been a major part of our organizations for decades. We didn't receive a reply. We followed up on December 24th to confirm that our email was received. I'd like to just briefly read a portion of what we wrote at that time. After further discussions with our board, we would also like to formally express that should the town proceed with the sale of Queenie property, the KLSA would like to be given the opportunity to be considered as a potential purchaser. As a long-standing community organization with significant investment in this property and a direct stake in its use, we feel it's appropriate that this option be available to us. I'll leave copies of the letter too. On January 7th, we received calls from local residents nearby saying that there was heavy equipment on Queenie Field and that large holes were being dug up. On inspection, we saw that the field had been severely damaged. We did take some pictures as well at that time. We followed up with another letter asking for clarification. On January 11th, we did receive a short response saying our concerns had been forwarded internally and that at that time, no decision had been made. It would appear at that time that a decision had been made because the field was already being dug up. At that time, we still did have an active lease on that property and we hadn't received any formal notice or communication regarding this activity or the sale. On February 5th, we received official notice saying the town had approved the sale of the property, that we were being given the 90 days notice on our lease and that the land had been sold for $20,000. We were also told the town planned to give KLSA the $20,000 towards improvements on our remaining fields. While we do appreciate the town trying to work with us, the reality is $20,000 is not enough. Over the years, Kirkland Lake Soccer has invested close to $300,000 in today's dollars into that property. So to put things into perspective, we recently received a quote to install a relatively short fence behind our bare field, and that quote was for $15,000. So you can understand why $20,000 is simply not going to go very far. It is hard for us to understand. One thing that is hard for us to understand is the actual value attached to the property. The field is sold for $20,000, but when you look at the property itself and the amount of work and money already invested into it over the years, it's hard for us to believe that reflects the true value. Even a low estimate today would put the value much higher, around $250,000 or more. That's tough to accept when KLSA was the organization that invested all that money and work. I also want to address a misconception. Some members of the town have suggested that the field was underutilized. That is not accurate. We are also under the impression that council was receiving all of our correspondence, concerns, and questions through this process. It was very concerning to later learn that council may have received only summarized versions of our emails instead of the full details that we carefully laid out, including field usage and the impact the sale would have on Kirkland Lake Soccer. If the full letters had been reviewed, we can't help but feel that the sale of this field would have been viewed differently. Soccer in Kirkland Lake is growing. We have nearly 350 kids registered. Plus, we have indoor programs in the winter with 50 to 60 kids weekly. Soccer is growing so fast in Kirkland Lake that we've even started having discussions about an indoor soccer dome. One thing many people don't know is we now have a travel team. Over the past 3 years, we've been inviting teams from New Liskard, Timmins, North Bay, Kapuskasing, and other communities to Kirkland Lake, while also traveling to their communities ourselves. So Kirkland Lake's really turning into the soccer hub of the north. This year, we want to create something called the Northern Cup, with Kirkland Lake being the host. Queenie Field was supposed to be the home field for our travel team this year. It's the right size for 9-on-9 play, which is the format for that age group. Our mini fields are only meant for younger divisions and 5-on-5 play. Unfortunately, this year, our U12 division will have to play on the mini fields instead, which isn't ideal for their development. We also want to point out that Kirkland Lake Soccer is not opposed to a daycare. We understand the need and we think it's a great thing for the community. What we've been struggling with is why this needed to come at the cost of one of our main soccer fields. We believe that if KLSA had been included in the discussion from the beginning, there could have been a way for everybody to share the space. From our point of view, there seems to be enough room on the top part of the property for a building or another layout that could still preserve our soccer field. It seems to us it would be much easier to find a location for a daycare building than to find a replacement for a full-size soccer field. Over the past few weeks, former presidents, past board members, volunteers, and local businesses have reached out asking the same question. How did this happen? How did an organization invest in so much time and money end up feeling left out of such an important conversation? At the same time, I want to stress that we're solution focused. I don't want this to turn into constant conflict. I want to work with the town to find a path forward. The staff and the director of community services that we've worked up to now have been respectful and helpful, and I do want to continue that relationship. So now we're looking to council for the next step. We've raised serious concerns and our community deserves to know where do we go from here and when can we expect further discussion? Thanks.
Thank you very much. Any questions from members of council of clarification? Councillor Shabba?
Through you, your worship, thank you very much. Mark Roy, I guess, around this table, I can say that I have been in your shoes many, many years ago. My question to you is that, just want to get the numbers, on average, how many games have you, say on average, say 3 years back, how many games have you actually played on that Queen Elizabeth, if you don't mind me asking?
It changes year to year based on registration. So that field is for our U12, U14, and even sometimes our U16 age group. So last year, the field was, there was 2 games played every night for 4 nights. That doesn't include any practices. In previous years too, just because our mini fields were being used, we had our Timbit soccer program happen on that field as well.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Madam Deputy Clerk, can I have you read the motion, please?
Be it resolved that the delegation entitled clarification on the sale of Queen Elizabeth Soccer Field and the tax to the Kirkland Lake Soccer Association be received for election purposes.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Ranger, seconded by Councillor Dolly Douglas. All in favor? Opposed? None noted. Item carried unanimous. Thank you. Item number 6.2, Chantal Perry, resident inquiry regarding municipal land disposition and procedures. Moved by Councillor Shabba, seconded by Councillor Douglas. Welcome. You may begin when you're ready.
Thank you. Hello, I'm Chantal Perrier. I put my glasses on. I'm very nervous. I had to bring my worm. Thank you, Mayor White and members of council. I'm here tonight, not just as a resident, but as a teacher and a neighbor who loves this town. Many of you on council in this room are my friends and you know me by heart. You know that I'm here tonight for one reason only, to stand up for the families, the neighbors, and especially the children of Kirkland Lake. As an educator, I talk to our youth every day. Lately, my students and the kids in the neighborhood have been asking me, what's happening to our beloved soccer field at Queen Lee Park? They're confused and they are worried about losing their green space. In fact, just recently, one of my young students who happened to be Councillor Shabba, I think it was, He wanted to come and delegate to save the soccer field. His father had to gently talk him out of it to protect him from the stress of public council chamber. It breaks my heart that our kids are feeling that pressure, but I think it is incredibly powerful that a child wanted to stand up for his community. I promised him I would carry his voice here tonight because our children deserve a transparent process. To be completely open, many of us in this neighborhood have felt a big loss trying to navigate the proper channels to get answers. It sometimes feels like they're getting passed from one department to the next with different explanations, which can be a bit discouraging. In fact, I received a formal email response from staff with their explanations 15 minutes before this meeting started tonight. While I appreciate the information, waiting until the final seconds before a delegation makes it very difficult for residents to have a meaningful dialogue. That is exactly why I want to come directly to you tonight, because we know you care. And the community is simply hoping for some clear, direct guidance from our local leaders rather than an administrative runaround. To help the neighborhood understand what happened, I want to look at 4 plain facts regarding how this park was sold and ask for 4 straightforward questions that our community needs answered. First, the missing letters and hidden minutes. Usually when a town wants to completely change how a neighborhood park is used, they send a direct letter in the mail to every homeowner living within 120 meters. For this park, those letters were never sent. Many neighbors didn't discover this deal until the end of April, and some still don't have any idea. Staff has stated that this was a town-wide housekeeping amendment and not specific to this park, but they also admitted their planning consultants specifically recommended changing the law to ensure the DTSSAB daycare project would fit. Furthermore, if you go to the town website right now, the minutes for that February 3rd meeting are completely missing from the public portal. The website skips right from January 7th to February 10th. The only reason I was able to see what happened that night is because the clerk had sent it to me. Period. Our question is, if the goal was true transparency, why was the standard mail out bypassed? And why is the official public record of that February meeting still hidden from the public website 3 months later? Second, the rushed clock. By provincial guidelines, the town is supposed to give the public a 20 days notice, full 20 days notice, before holding a public meeting to change land rules. Staff had stated that the notice was officially published on January 30th for the February 18th meeting. Our question is, even by your own staff's math, January 30th to February 18th is only 16 business days or 19 calendar days. Why did the town shortchange its community and fail to meet the mandatory 20-day provincial timeline? Third, a done deal. The town held a public meeting on February 18th to ask residents what they thought about the park. But council had already voted to officially sell the park 2 weeks earlier on February 3rd to a numbered company without openly naming who it was. Even worse, ground testing holes were already dug up on the field back in January, and we know from the daycare itself that a daycare is planned for that space. Our question is, how can this be a true public consultation when the land was already sold to a numbered company and the shovels were already in the ground weeks before you asked the public what we thought? Fourth, the conflict of interest. This brings us why the rules were rushed. On February 3rd, while one councillor did the right thing, declared a conflict and walked out of the room, another councillor stayed in her seat. She didn't just stay, she actually put forward the motions to declare the parkland surplus, cancel the youth soccer lease, and waive the standard public notice periods. She did this even though her spouse is a CAO for the DTSSAB, the very organization benefiting from this daycare transaction. When residents asked staff about this conflict, the response completely defected by pointing out the councillor who left the room, while completely ignoring the councillor who stayed to move the motions. In plain terms, that is a clear conflict of interest. Our question is, how can the community be reassured that fairness was maintained when a councillor stayed in the room to actively push through a rapid-fire transaction that directly benefits her spouse's employing organization? We aren't here to cause a big divide. We are here because we care about the kids. We care about our parks and we care about fairness. Because these facts are so serious, members of our communities have already officially escalated this entire file to the Office of the Ontario Ombudsman for an independent provincial review of the town's administrative process. Furthermore, to ensure local accountability and protect the integrity of this council, we are asking tonight that council formally vote to refer this transaction to the Municipal Integrity Commissioner for a full investigation into the conflict of interest and the fast tracking of these procedures. The outcome we are looking for tonight is a win-win solution. Our community absolutely needs childcare facilities, but we should not have to sacrifice our children's active green spaces to get them. We are asking council to pause this transaction and look at the alternate municipal properties so we can find a new location for the daycare. One that leaves our Queenie Park intact for all youth soccer players and future players. We ask that a formal written response answering our 4 questions be posted openly on the town's website for all residents to see. Thank you so much for your time and listening to the voices of our children.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Perry. We do appreciate your time. Madam Deputy Clerk, I'll have you read the motion.
Be resolved that the delegation entitled inquiry regarding municipal land disposition procedures be received for information purposes.
Thank you. All in favor? Opposed? None noted. Item carried unanimous. Item number 6.4 is Penny Perry, Executive Director, Second Street Daycare, Inc. Moved by Councillor Ranger, seconded by Councillor Casey Owens. Thank you very much. You may proceed.
Good afternoon. Your worship, members of council, thank you for the opportunity to speak today. Second Street Daycare began in the early 1990s in a portable behind KLCDI. It was founded by a volunteer board of directors and had about 6 staff members and space for 24 children. When the new high school, KLDCS was complete in 2005, the daycare moved to Northern College. At that time, there were about 10 staff and space for 30 children. We continued to grow and invest in our staff and facilities. In 2017, the opportunity to acquire the municipal daycare, Queen Street Daycare, and its facility license was presented to our organization. We jumped at the opportunity. This increased our capacity to meet the needs of another 60 children in our community. Over the last 25 years, we have continued to be run by a direct board of directors that is made up of parent volunteers. Second Street Daycare is a not-for-profit and registered charity that provides childcare services to the Kirkland Lake and surrounding area. We are licensed through the Ministry of Education and receive operating funds from the DSAB. Currently, we have 190 children registered on a full-time and part-time basis that we juggle between 125 spaces and 27 staff members that operate the 2 sites. Childcare is often limiting and determining factor when new families are looking at employment opportunities, not just locally, but there's a significant demand provincially and nationally for licensed childcare. Today, Second Street Daycare operates at 98% capacity. We often have to turn away working families because there are just no spaces. Many families call almost a year in advance, hoping to secure a spot for their child. So we started looking for a new place to call home. One center, a place that would be able to increase the number of licensed spots to help fill the growing need in our community. We started working with the town of Kirkland Lakes Planning Department to see if there was something available. We looked at several existing buildings, both privately owned and publicly funded, but none of them fit the needs that a daycare facility has. So we looked for other options. Today, I am happy to share with you something that has been in the works now for over a year. Second Street Daycare has partnered with the DSAB and Agnico Eagle to fund a new 10,000 square foot standalone childcare facility, one of only 3 in the province. After we looked at potential existing buildings and determined that none fully met our requirements, we looked at and ultimately purchased a portion of the Queenie soccer field. This location was selected because of existing infrastructure, services that could easily be hooked up. The space had already been cleared and the location, as it is fairly central to most families in Kirkland Lake, especially families that have limited means of transportation. It was a space we needed, and it was a space that worked. The new facility will continue to provide childcare for children aged 0 to 12. Full-day programs will run from 6:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Monday to Friday. The new facility's location will have a large parking lot with a kiss and ride available for quick drop-offs and pickups, a green space for play, as well as playgrounds, all at one site. Safety is the top priority for all educators at Second Street Daycare, and having the ability to provide informed decisions on the design of the facility and the surrounding area has allowed all educators to provide valuable input throughout the process. We will continue to utilize Northern College. It will be transformed into a before and after school program site. This will help us meet the needs of working families of school-aged children before and after school, PD days, March break, and summers. We have limited capacities as where we currently sit. We will no longer lease the Queen Street location, and it will remain property of the town of Kirkland Lake. We have worked with the Ministry of Education on all the plans related to this new facility, and all the plans have been approved. We will become a more efficient childcare provider under one roof. We will be increasing our number of licensed spaces by at least 20%. All while continuing to offer opportunities to new families in our community. Construction will be starting soon with an anticipated operating date of early 2027. Many of our staff are registered early childhood educators who fulfill annual continuing education requirements and mandatory obligations by the College of ECE. We are not simply babysitters. We are educators that give our most vulnerable and valuable sector a safe space to grow and learn. We believe that this new facility will be able to provide childcare services to working families and will help recruit and retain new professionals to our community. We have grown over the last 30 years and we will continue to grow. We have been part of thousands of children's lives in Kirkland Lake. Kirkland Lake is growing. We are hoping to help contribute to this growth and meet the demands of our growing community. We believe in Kirkland Lake and our future Kirkland Lakers. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions of clarification from members of council? Councillor Dykens?
To you, Madam Mayor, I think you said it, currently you have X amount of,
Spaces,
children,
children.
spaces in both places.
Mhm.
This new place, you will just have just have the new place or the college as well?
So we're going to host our full day programs at the new build. And we're also going to have a small school age program for siblings, but we will be keeping the Northern College site
Okay.
because of the growth demand of school age spaces. And the reason we chose Northern College is because we have an excellent working relationship and community partnership with Northern College, but also all of the school buses in Kirkland Lake will bring the kids to Northern College. They have excellent facilities, the gym, the auditorium, the cafeteria, the outdoor play space for the kids. So we will be having the full day programs at the Queen site and the after school age program at the college.
Follow up?
Follow up.
So in the new place, a 20% increase in spaces? Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further clarification required? Nothing noted. Madam Deputy Clerk, can you read the motion again, please?
Be it resolved that the delegation entitled Second Street Daycare Expansion Projects be received for information purposes.
All in favor? Opposed? Item carried unanimous. Thank you
Thank you.
very much for joining us this evening. Normally we do not have a brief recess, but if there are members of the public that wish to leave, we will take a 5-minute recess to allow you to leave the room unless you wish to stay the rest of our meeting. So I will call for a recess of 5 minutes. And we've now rised from recess. Thank you, everyone, for coming this evening. So we will resume item number 7, approval and acceptance of minutes, moved by Councillor Ranger, seconded by Councillor Casey Owens.
Be resolved that council approve the minutes of the following meetings: minutes of the public meeting of council held May 5th, 2026, minutes of the regular meeting of council held May 5th, 2026, and minutes of the special meeting of council held May 14th, 2026.
All in favor? Opposed? None noted. Item carried unanimous. Committees of council minutes, moved by Councillor Shava and Councillor Ranger as second.
Be it resolved that council adopt the minutes of the following meeting: minutes of the Kirkland Lake Economic Development Advisory Committee held February 25th, 2026.
All in favor? Opposed? A point of order?
Point of order, I think I moved the minutes on the 5th. I can't remember if I raised my hand, I don't know if you named me or not.
Yeah, you did. She did.
Okay, I wasn't at the meeting, so I don't think.
Sorry. Oh, okay, thank you, sir. So sorry, returning to
Sorry,
that, no, that's perfect. So we are going to continue our vote on this one, and then we'll go back to redo. So the committees of council minutes, it was moved by Lad Shava and seconded by Councillor Ranger. All in favor? Opposed? None noted. That is carried. We are now going to have a secondary vote on the public meeting minutes of May 5th, council minutes of May 5th, special council minutes of May 14th, 2025, as Councillor Owens cannot second. Seconded by Councillor Lad Shava. All in favor? Opposed? Also carried unanimous. Thank you very much for that point of order. Item number 8, reports from municipal officers and staff. 8.1, proposed amendments to Code of Ethics policy, moved by Councillor Ranger, seconded by Councillor Casey Owens.
Be resolved that report number 2026 CIO 11 entitled Proposed Amendment to Ethics Policy be received, and that council approve the proposed Code of Ethics policy as amended and presented. And finally, that the amended Code of Ethics policy be added to the corporate policy manual.
Thank you, and this will be presented by Alan Smith, CAO. You may proceed, sir.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, to members of council. During administration review of current policies, it became quite evident that amendments to the current Code of Ethics policy was required. So much so that a near full rewrite of the policy was undertaken. Should be noted that best practices from other municipalities were reviewed to help form the revised ethics policy. The updated Code of Ethics establishes clear expectations for ethical conduct, professionalism, and accountability for all individuals performing work on behalf of the town. It outlines standards of behavior, responsibilities of employees and management, and processes for reporting and investigating ethical misconduct. The updated policy includes an expanded and modernized definitions. New sections were also included on expected standards of ethical behavior, professionalism, personal conduct, conduct at council, committee, and meetings, and relationship with staff members of council. Updated by outside employment rules were also included. Updated political activity section. This is actually taken from the Public Service of Ontario Act 2006. Also includes a revised confidentiality section, and also clear roles and responsibilities were included. Human Resources Division will roll out a training program for staff. Through this mandatory training, ongoing monitoring, and regular review, the town ensures that employees understand their obligations and that the policy remains current, effective, and aligned with legislative requirements, also direction. This commitment supports a transparent, respectful, and trustworthy public service that upholds the reputation and integrity of the town of Kirkland Lake. I welcome any questions, and we have to call upon HR to assist me, but any questions?
Thank you. Any questions or comments from members of council? Nothing noted from the table. For my part, the only question I do have is how will this be rolled out to ensure that all staff are familiar with this new and updated policy?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, to council. We do have our human resources will be provided to train per department. We will have a rollout with presentations, PowerPoint, and each staff member will be required to answer a quiz at the end of the review of the policy. And that will be continually reviewed. So we will undertake that process shortly. So.
Thank you for that. All in favor? Opposed? None noted. Item carried unanimous. Item number 8.2, proposed water and wastewater rates, moved by Councillor Ranger, seconded by Councillor Ladd Shava.
Be it resolved that report number 2026-14 entitled Proposed Water and Wastewater Rates be received. And finally, that a public meeting be held in relation to the proposed water and wastewater rates on Tuesday, June 16th, 2026 at 4:50 p.m.
Thank you. And this will be presented by our treasurer, Mr. Lloyd Crocker. Welcome, sir.
You know, Madam Mayor and the council. This is a very common process that we go through every year. It is not a process that is pushed to the side or gets very little attention. Our water and wastewater system is one of the better systems in Ontario. We have relatively new processing facilities, and we have a lot of work to do in the ground. We all understand that. The asset management plan, which we have now been working our way through, we've got up to the 5th iteration, 4th one since I've been here. And it has recommendations about how much money we should be putting aside to try and deal with the future requirements of those two systems. The asset management plans are very specific, and we've adopted those rates in this particular schedule. Again, just want to point out a couple of things about our day-to-day stuff. So we budget every year for the operations of the water and the wastewater system. These rates directly support those two budgets, those two separate budgets of water and wastewater treatment. There's also a portion within those budgets, you will see a transfer to reserves. And that's the portion that we're trying to identify, putting some money aside for future capital. And sometimes that future capital is only a year out, depending on how our facilities are doing. It's not required by law to behave that way, but we've adopted that approach, and it's a fairly prudent approach. Again, the rates are basically out of the asset management plan. I'd be very happy to answer any questions or anybody would have.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from members of council? Councillor Shava?
Yeah, through you, the worship to treasure. Looking at page 7 and 8, allowing frozen water service to charge. Page 7, mine being 7 of 8. Allowing frozen water service. Can I proceed with my question?
Yes, please.
Yeah, okay, I'm a little bit confused here. So the minimum charge is $697.90, and it could go up to $720.93. That's the maximum, or it could be higher than, or cannot be higher than $720.93. That's what I'm trying to say. So the minimum charge is $697.90, as stated, and then plus actual expense, and then but then you have $720.93, then plus actual expense. So which means to me that cost will escalate. That we escalate to about, I don't know, 1,000 or more than $720.93. Can you clarify that, please?
To you, Madam Mayor. So I'm the first number I'm not aware of. The 2025 number was 720. The 2026 proposed number is 731. With regard to how they're charged, you're correct in the sense that during working hours, the new rate of $731.74 would be charged. After hours, and that after hours would be the basic charge plus actual expense, and that's typically the workers that are pulled into work, in excess of their normal work hours, to reflect the cost of doing that. It's, I don't know if there's any other charges other than labor as the actual expenses, but I suppose there could be, depending on what the the job requires.
Follow-up?
Yeah, okay, well, thanks for that, but I'm still unclear about this. After hours charge, I get that, minimum charge $697.90 plus actual expense, which is. But then it goes on, next column, $720 plus $720.93 plus actual expense. That's where I'm just trying to extend it to.
Thank you. I'm just gonna pause for a moment. Can you bring that up on the screen for all of us to see? The next one.
Another page.
Which page is it?
5 of 8,
What's that? Five?
5 of 8.
Five.
So.
There is at
seven. That's seven, for
Oh,
my
my
space,
pad says 5 of 8.
Just written.
mine says 7, 8.
Service.
Frozen water.
Yeah. Right there. Yeah,
I'm there, oh.
Okay.
Right. Oh,
The red rates reflect the
oh, I see, okay.
proposed new rates.
Oh, the red rate is not showing on mine.
Mine is reduced a bit.
Oh, okay, I got it. The red rate was not showing on my screen, so.
No problem.
Maybe you're right.
But the question still is that for clarification purposes, your worship.
No, absolutely.
If you look at the first row, the standard charge $697.90 minimum charge, working hours, that's during the day, plus actual expense, it could run you $720.93. I just want to make sure that people know exactly how much they're paying for this before, you guys show up. Then it said after hours, I got two numbers there, $697 for the after hours, $697.90 plus actual expense. And then it goes on $720 plus 93 plus actual expense, but I don't have it right, so.
I don't.
So through Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I believe those are last year's numbers.
Okay,
720 is the
731.
2025 number.
Okay,
And you'll
731.
see in red, there's 731.
Okay.
Speaking to your comment about people understanding the charges,
Yeah.
the charges typically during the working hours, Monday to Friday, they're outlined right there. You'll be paying $731.74 if you call in for fine water lines. You would pay the same rate plus the actual expenses, which is, as I mentioned earlier, mostly a reflection of the fact we have to pull staff in after hours to do the job.
Thank you. Counselor Owens?
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor, on the top of the line there, just while you opened up this kettle of fish, thaw orders are deemed to be property owner's responsibility. What happens when the frozen element of the pipe is on the town side? Does the resident still have to flip the bill on this one?
You, Madam Mayor, my understanding is we cover the town side, the resident is responsible for their side. I'm not sure if it's any, no more complicated than that, apparently.
Okay, so it's that water valve is the,
Yeah, so
Separation.
yeah, okay.
there's usually often the water valve is on the town side, but where the freeze is.
Not always, but okay. If I ask the question, it's.
Good world, yes.
Yes.
Thank you for that. Anything further from member of council? Counselor Shabba?
Yeah, through your worship, going up, hydrant rentals and inspections. Do you know, how many private fire hydrants do we have? I don't know, all the fire hydrants belong to the town, so do we have private fire hydrants?
Thank you for that question. At this time, I will have the Director of Public Works come up to the council table. Not that I doubt the treasurer's knowledge of our hydrants, but
Sure, I don't.
thank you, sir.
Mayor, to Councilor Kavanaugh. The majority of fire hydrants are on town property and are town owned and town maintained as well. There are a series of fire hydrants that are situated on private property, and that makes them private hydrants. The reason that we have these rates is to make ourselves available to inspect these hydrants. It's one of the requirements that we have is that every hydrant needs to be inspected every year, whether town owned or privately owned. And because there's no services in town that would offer this service directly, we offer it. Every private owner has the option of hiring whoever they like. But for convenience, they often go with us to check their hydrants every year.
Thank you for that clarification. Anything further from members of council? Thank you, sir. All in favor? Opposed? None noted. Item carried unanimous. Thank you very much. Item number 9 is members' motions. 9.1 and 9.2 have been deferred at this time. I will ask Acting Mayor Casey Owens to take the chair for the next motion.
Was it seconded by?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Can you, never
You
change
changed
in a second?
It's not the
So who's the?
Janice.
Okay, yeah, okay. So 9.3. Mayor states resolving the Park Avenue address issue recommend, moved by it's been a long day.
That's okay.
By Mayor White, seconded by Councilor Ranger.
Whereas the Municipal Act 2001 as amended provides municipalities with authority over local highways and roadways, and whereas the roadway associated with the property municipally known as One Park Avenue has not been clearly defined or legally established, resulting in ongoing confusion regarding the property's civic addressing, and whereas this lack of clarity presents challenges related to municipal service delivery and administrative consistency, and whereas the issue concerning the property municipally known as One Park Avenue was brought to the town of Kirkland Lake attention in 2019 by the property owners, and whereas following engagement with the Office of the Mayor in March of 2023, a meeting was held with the municipal clerk and chief administrative officer confirming the existence of an official municipal property assessment corporation roll number and recognized address for this property. And whereas the civic fire number for the property was confirmed with Bell for 911 emergency services. And whereas the staff of the corporation of the town of Kirkland Lake completed the necessary steps to support recognition of the mailing address by Canada Post. And whereas the Office of the Mayor was notified in January 2026 that the issue remained unsolved. And whereas the Office of the Mayor engaged the Ministry of the Attorney General, Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, Member of Parliament for Kapuskasing Timmins Mushkegowuk, and Member of Provincial Parliament for Timiskaming Cochrane, and was notified the file had been moved to the Ministry of Public and Business Service Delivery and Procurement with the inclusion of the property owners. And whereas follow-up with the property owners by the Office of the Mayor confirmed that the issue remained unsolved. And whereas an existing roadway locally known as Harvey Kirkland Road is to be surveyed and registered as part of the Premier Subdivision land sale process. And whereas Park Avenue requires surveying and legal review to confirm its status and determine the next appropriate steps. Now therefore be it resolved that administration be directed to prepare and present a report to council outlining proposed solutions to resolve the One Park Avenue addressing issue, recommended timelines and estimated costs and resource implications. And finally, that administration follow up with the property owners with monthly status updates until it is confirmed the issue is fully resolved.
I didn't have to read that one tonight. Mayor White.
Thank you through you, Acting Mayor Owens. So as the motion outlines, this issue has taken 2 terms of council to get to this point. At every stage of the game since I've been involved, there was an assumption that, yes, we have solved this issue. And then months passed, and when I checked in again, it had not, in fact, been resolved. So at every stage of the game, all members of the staff that I engage with did exactly what should be done under these circumstances, and yet it never became resolved. So at this last ditch effort, I had escalated it to the province. And I truly believed, because of the engagement of the ministers through email correspondence, that finally this file will get resolved, because we've escalated it to the ministry involved. And then I asked the individuals involved, so what's the status? Is everything good? And again, everything was not good. So this is our last ditch effort, unfortunately, to bring it to council. We need to have this resolved for this poor family. It has been going on now for 7 years. So I do appreciate consideration at the table for this resolution.
Councilor Ranger.
I'm supporting this. It's been private conversation. It needs to become a public matter so that those government agencies can do their part to rectify this issue.
Thank you. It's kind of mind-boggling that a simple address can be so complicated to rectify. I'm in full support of this as well. All in favor? Carried.
Thank you. Yeah, and thank you, Acting Mayor Owens. I do appreciate you taking the chair. Moving on to item number 10, readings and considerations of bylaws. There are none this evening. Item number 11, notices of motion. Councillor Owens.
Thank you. You notice that I will be presenting a notice of motion next council meeting to reestablish Tuesdays as the day for council and no longer switching them around, leading to confusion.
Thank you. Anything from other members of council? Councillor Shava?
Our next meeting, I will be presenting a motion for the search for a new soccer field.
Thank you. So recording. Anything further? Nothing noted. Item number 12, council reports and committees of council, local and regional board updates, moved by Councillor Ranger, seconded by Councillor Casey Owens.
Be resolved that verbal updates from members of council be received.
Any reports from members of council? Councillor Ranger?
Yes, thank you through you, Madam Mayor. I just want to express my appreciation for attending my first conference, which was FUNUM in Timmins last week. It required me to take 3 days off my day job, but it was certainly worth it, specifically for the opportunities to meet and network with other municipal leaders, particularly the deputy mayor from North Bay, the mayor from Timmins. It was really nice to see women in leadership roles and to make those connections. We certainly have a lot in common, being all from northern municipalities. And as a really great side note, I just happened to win the draw prize. So the bar has been set high for any other conferences I tend to, I hope to attend in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further from members of council? Councillor Shava?
Yeah, I too was at the FUNUM annual conference in Timmins. Actually, first time in Timmins, but I know of anyways. It was well attended. With delegates from about 101 municipalities. The first day saw, I would say, 4 resolutions. I'm always very interested in the resolutions put forward by FUNUM. I'm just going to go through just the heading of the resolutions. The first one, urgent action on highway safety, which is not new to us because we've been talking about it around this table. And then the other new ones that I read is very interesting. Will be establishment of a Northern Ontario policing grant. As you know, we were struggling with cost of policing, so this one will be very much advantageous to our community. The third one will be this is very, very important. Targeted amendments to the Mental Health Act to support compassionate intervention. The nutshell of that is that when people are having crisis and they refuse to seek intervention, maybe there's something in the legislation to at least enable other people, relatives or whatnot, to help them out or get them to where they can get help. And then the last one, which is also very much new to me, was the strengthening mental health addiction crisis response to reduce pressure on police and emergency department. Not number 5, sorry, 5 or number 4. The 5th one is the Northern Ontario ICI Recycling Depot, which would be of interest to us here because, as you know, I think what they're trying to do is to make sure that the people that are producing all this recycled materials, they take care of the residential, but they don't take care of the industrial, commercial, and institutional, such as hospitals. So they're trying to get them to take care of everybody as opposed to the residential. So, and very quickly, we got a chance to listen to the Ontario Northland about the train. This is very nice because I was there in 2012 on the Ontario Northland Board when the train was suspended due to low ridership and then lack of funding. And then to see it coming back and with all the bells and whistles, to me, it's really, I guess I feel good about that. You know, hopefully, I mean, people that are listening, if it comes back, hopefully we subscribe to it, we lobby for the funding so that we don't have to be in the same boat whereby we lose it and then we have to fight really hard to get it back. So again, that's a summary of, there's a lot happening in that 3 day you guys can imagine, but some of my colleagues covered the rest. But was well attended. Again, we met a lot of new faces, and it's good to see Janice show up. I win the prize. I don't feel jealous, Janice. Thank you, Your Worship. That's it for my report.
Counselor Owens.
Not to be outdone by the counselor sitting next to me, I could not participate in Phenom because my day job does not permit me 3 days off in a row. So it's not an opportunity that I have. I wish I could have just to see the train. Further than that, I won't comment further on that.
Why didn't I just see the train? We were too late, so don't worry about it.
One thing I want to comment on tonight is, I don't often do this one, and I'm not going to talk about specifics situation, but just to say that the town of Kirkland Lake, is not transparent, I think will demonstrates a lack of interest in what we actually do in the town of Kirkland Lake and what staff do. If anything, the town of Kirkland Lake is annoyingly transparent because it slows the process down in every which way, but we are transparent. So I'm gonna stay around.
Thank you for that. Anything further from members of council?
I'm not, just to follow up, I was not in any way insinuating people have their own circumstances for not going or not attending or anything like that. I'm just trying to make that.
Yes. Thank you for that.
Rub it in.
So
So later
for my report to council, I want to first congratulate Chantal Leduc and Dan Belfay, who were recently inducted into the Ontario Arm Wrestling Hall of Fame. They both got their starts here in our community in 1996 as members of the Mile of Gold Arm Wrestling Club. So definitely Kirkland Lake is very, very proud of these two individuals. I also want to commend staff for posting the Kirkland Lake Public Works planned operations daily on social media. I've experienced personally a marked decrease in questions regarding the services provided in this area now that we have followed other communities' best practices of publishing this information. When we talk about transparency, absolutely. I also want to note the countless volunteers and singular member of the communities who have been picking up trash all over Kirkland Lake. Some with no fanfare, no photo ops, just going out and doing a good thing for their town. And a massive thank you to the members of the KL Beautification Committee, without whom this town's cleanup week would not be such a resounding success so far. It is only Wednesday. Contributing positively to our community is so very easy, just by helping others out and being kind. You make Kirkland Lake a better place. Good people are doing good things all over our community. And if you just look for the good, you'll see these people too. Heck, you may be even inspired to do something positive yourself. As for my report for Phenom, it is very difficult to bring something new to the table because 4 members of our council attend Phenom on a regular basis. We are in the same room together for 3 days hearing the same information. So it is tough not covering the same basics. But I do want to note the keynote speaker this year was Jamie Campbell, host of the Blue Jays baseball on Sportsnet. His theme was connecting communities, driving growth. And I have to say, in all my years of going to conferences, his talk was the first talk that left people with tears in their eyes. His message was clear and so relevant to today's society. Don't waste your time not doing good things for others. The transportation methods of Canada's nuclear fuel, was interesting topic and relevant, as many voices on social media are quite concerned about this. We are approaching 2040 very quickly. Key takeaways from that presentation was the containment apparatuses are designed not to fail, and they are tested under circumstances well beyond anything that would normally happen during a vehicle collision. Director Labrador and myself attended the Northern Summit post the FONUM conference, and we had the opportunity to express to Minister Lisa Thompson that the Ministry of Finance population projections are not sometimes are not reflective of the reality at the municipal level. And if a municipality has definitive evidence of this, perhaps the provincial government should take a look at the local population projections. Discussions surrounding moving away from KPIs in favor of deliverables on corporate business plans were also noted. We should be asking ourselves, what will we accomplish in the following year, putting concrete actions into place, and asking ourselves at the end of the year, were we successful on delivering the things we said we would during reports, during budget processes, and items brought to the council table? This is how we solidify our accountability. During the bear pit with the ministers, the moose hunt did come up because I know many members of our community are very interested in hunting. During his talk, Minister Harris noted that there would be an in-house licensing system launched for 2027, including the tagging system, where you can renew your hunting and fishing licenses right on your phone. The moose management system is in progress now, recognizing how the wolf and bear populations have an impact also on the moose population. Also, he noted updates to party hunting will be coming, though no date was given on that specifically. He assured the room a good chunk of these items would be completed for 2027. Also, during the bear pit, I took the opportunity to ask, quote unquote, with the decreased number of international students, local college campuses are currently struggling to keep themselves afloat. Having a campus in your community is a strong economic driver for reasons we're all aware. How is this government working with these institutions, for instance, bringing skills development back to the local campuses, especially in forest mining and communities seeing increased demand in the construction field? I have to say I was less than impressed. The answer that was given, as it was very Timmins-centric. Not recognizing that people in smaller municipalities like Kirkland Lake and Temiskaming Shores, for instances, rely on the local campuses for courses like CPR, first aid, fall arrest, as well as they provide a path for those who may not be able to afford to leave their communities to seek further education. Not that we've received any indication at this table, but I hope the community can be proactive in their support of our local college campus before serious decisions are made, and encourage our citizens to show their support of keeping courses running here in Kirkland Lake before decisions are made. Thank you for that. All in favor? Opposed? None noted. Item carried unanimous. Item number 13, proclamations and recognitions, moved by Councillor Ranger, seconded by Councillor Shaba.
Be resolved that council sanction the proclamation for Pride Month, June 2026 of the town of Kirkland Lake.
Thank you. Whereas June is celebrated as Pride Month in Canada and globally, highlighting the importance of embracing diversity, fostering inclusion, and acknowledging the significant social, economic, and cultural contributions of 2S LGBTQIA+ individuals in our communities. And whereas during Pride Month, we honor the remarkable courage and resilience demonstrated by 2S LGBTQIA+ people across Canada, and recommit our efforts to preventing discrimination and advancing inclusion and acceptance for all members of our communities. And whereas Pride Month is an opportunity to celebrate progress, while also acknowledging the ongoing challenges in the fight against discrimination and violence based on sexual and gender identity, and reminds us all of the importance of advocating for change and continued education and awareness in the fight for equality. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Stacey White, on behalf of the council, do hereby proclaim the month of June to be Pride Month in the town of Kirkland Lake. All in favor? Opposed? None noted. Item carried unanimous. Item number 14, additional information and mayor's provincial policy matters. There are none this evening. We'll now take a brief 5-minute recess because we've already recessed this evening. We're now going to reconvene from recess, moved by Councillor Dyken, seconded by Councillor Ranger.
Be it resolved that council adjourns in camera pursuant to section 239(2) of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended to discuss personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees and labor relations or employee negotiations at 6:50 p.m. for the following reasons. Item 15.1, council appointment to the Kirkland Lake OPP Detachment Board, and item 15.2, interim chief administrative officer negotiations.
All in favor? Opposed? None noted. Item carried unanimous. Thank you. We'll now reconvene from in camera, moved by Councillor Shabba, seconded by Councillor Owens.
Be it resolved that council reconvene in open session at 7:18 p.m.
All in favor? Opposed? None noted. Item carried unanimous. Any matters of pecuniary interest arising from in camera? None noted. Item 16.1, interim chief administrative officer. Moved by Councillor Owens, seconded by Councillor Ranger.
Be it resolved that Dan Laverdure be appointed as interim chief administrative officer effective June 3rd, 2026, until such time that a permanent chief administrative officer has been appointed by council, and that formal appointment bylaw be presented for 3 readings at an upcoming meeting, and that council direct administration to lead the recruitment process for a permanent chief administrative officer using internal resources and establish municipal hiring practices. And finally, that council determine its level of involvement in the recruitment process at a future meeting.
All in favor? Opposed? None noted. Item carried unanimous. Item number 17, notices of reconsideration. Does any member at this table wish to have any matter decided upon this evening reconsidered? Nothing noted. Item number 18, confirmation bylaw number 26-031, moved by Councillor Owens, seconded by Councillor Shava.
Be it resolved that the following bylaw be read a first, second, and third time and numbered, passed, signed, and sealed. Bylaw number 2631, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council at its meeting held Wednesday, May 20th, 2026.
All in favor? Opposed? None noted. Item carried unanimous. Item 19, I move for this meeting be adjourned, seconded by Councillor Shava. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good evening.